All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Todd Brous. I'm here with my co-founder, Susan Schultz, and we would like to welcome everyone to HBAP Startups. So let's get started. For those of you who are new to the Startups group, we have a few announcements at the beginning of each meeting. We'll do some short networking breakout rooms, and then we'll come back together for our main event. First off is our mission. We're here to help foster and fortify an innovation community, innovation and entrepreneur community coming out of the Harvard Business Analytics program. Our goal is to provide our members with the tools, knowledge, leadership, and confidence necessary to grow and create their businesses from the ground up. I cannot read today, apparently. And you're probably wondering how to engage with all of us. I'm going to post some links into the Zoom chat so everybody can sign up for our newsletter. Take a look at our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel because the algorithm speaks wonders. All right, Susan.
Yes, so in the spirit of why we're all here, right? We're here to learn a bunch of really cool things and share with each other good things and hard things and seeking advice. So in the spirit of all that, we want to create this environment, and we want to continue the environment of safety and collaboration. And so for every speaker, all rights, of course, are reserved unless they tell us otherwise. And then just a reminder of the Francis Fry feedback ratio, that when we are giving questions or feedback, it's in the spirit of positive feedback only. And then also just a reminder that because we need to make sure that we preserve the confidentiality of the speakers and people even asking questions. No personal recording of this stuff. That's a requirement here, so that we make sure that we keep this group and this session and every session safe. And then, of course, any conflict of interest, just give Todd and me an email, a call, a Slack, a text, a passenger pigeon, and we'll help you figure it out. Of course, there aren't any passenger pigeons left, so don't try that one. And then upcoming, we've got all kinds of really cool stuff. I mean, we've got Maurice, who just finished a round in crowdfunding, and she's going to be bringing one of her crowdfunding platform companies with her to talk about how that was. And then Jana Hefford, who is a massive gold medalist in hockey, and then Neville Boston, who is going to tell us his story of his entrepreneurial journey. Then we've got Josh Krieger, who was talked about on one of the previous startup sessions by Kelly. He's looking to get some really interesting and cool feedback from this group on his research. The 25th, I'm going to just be talking about where we are in our journey. And then we also have that coming up with Swapnil too. So it's kind of like, a year has passed. Where are we? And then November 1st, we're going to see what happens with that. And then we've got somebody from Harvard Grid, Paul Hare, coming. So lots of really interesting and different kinds of speakers coming up.
Thanks, Susan. So now, as is our custom, we will do some short one-on-one networking breakout rooms. I'm going to open up the rooms. A couple of you are going to stick around with me in the lobby, but I will see you guys in about 5-6 minutes.
All right, thank you.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, from your breakout rooms. I hope that you all had a great conversation. That is half of the thing that we're here for. Just a little bit of a reminder. At the end of the session tonight, when you leave Zoom and you resume the rest of your lives, which, again, without us, whatever you guys do, please fill out that survey. That is something that Susan and we look at that data, and we love that data. It reduces your cholesterol levels, gives you a great complexion, and it increases your stamina. So we're data analytics people, and we do enjoy to look at data, and we get upset when we don't get data, or at least when it's not quality. So again, reminder that these recordings will be made public, and please stick around for some overtime, and that will be, we'll turn off the recording. And I see Bill Mitchell. Hi, Bill. All right. So now, without further ado, it is my honor to introduce tonight's speaker, Dr. Madison Ngafeeson. Now, Madison, how do you pronounce your last name?
Pretend as though the first N is silent. So it's like Ngafeeson.
Ngafeeson. Dr. Madison Ngafeeson. And I'm embarrassing myself. I will edit that. So it is my honor to introduce tonight's speaker, Dr. Madison Ngafeeson. Dr. Madison is an HBAP alumni and executive trainer, speaker, and leadership coach with Maxwell Leadership. He's also a professor and chair of the Business Data Analytics program at the Rinker School of Business, Palm Beach Atlantic University. He is the founder of Lead Missions International, a nonprofit, and Superior Lead, a for-profit organization, both of which are leadership development organizations which serve people and other organizations by raising the lid on leadership ability. As a business professor and former director of the MBA program, Madison brings a wealth of experience from teaching business professionals practical leadership tools that are certain to take individuals, their teams, and businesses up to the next level. Madison's latest book, The Day Before Tomorrow, How to Make Today Count, has been read around the world and is currently being used in masterminds and courses to prepare students and career professionals for achieving the life of their dreams. And now, without further ado, as is our custom at HBAP Startups, please, if we could all briefly unmute ourselves and let's give a warm round of applause to Madison. Madison, thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Let me hit my slides here and then I can share my screen with you. Great. Thank you so much, Todd. Thank you so much, Susan, and all of the leaders of this great forum. I was just talking about this in our breakout rooms that I love to be where the startup guys are, right? Because they get me started on some things. So I want to keep my feet close to the fire so I can be warm. But again, my name is Madison, and I live here at West Palm Beach. I used to be in Michigan, and I'm no more there, but I'm glad to be where the sun is shining. So no regrets for that. So, but I'm certainly glad to be here. I just want to thank each one of you. And certainly you heard about my new book, The Day Before Tomorrow, How to Make Today Count. So I thought that instead of maybe telling you what is in the book, which you are definitely going to read, I thought to take a different road, which is to give you the back story, which nobody will know except you who is here. So that way I can add value in some form or fashion. So the title of my short discussion here today would just be on the subject of say yes. Say yes. And it's a call to personal leadership. So I will just share my story, like I said again, a backstory, and the thing that really pushed me to write the book that I wrote. And once you hear my story, I think it would make you appreciate why I put forth maybe such a book. But my story began about some 9,000 miles away, back in a tiny little village in the grasslands of Cameroon in Africa. Well, this is my 4-year-old self. This is the oldest picture of myself that I have, and I hold it like a prized possession. This one is better than any Michelangelo, any Van Gogh or whatever you have. Like this is it. When I put forth this picture a couple months ago, 2 of my younger uncles were arguing. You would be very surprised what the argument was all about. They said, Madison, you were so privileged. You were the one who happened to wear suits that were never handed down. And I was surprised for the first time, that that is how rich I was, that I got the chance to wear suits that were never handed down. So that was an argument I had with my parents. But I grew up with my grandmother and my grandfather, because when my mom had me as a teenage girl, my father took the next flight out of town, and I never showed up until when I was 5 years, then showed up the second time when I was 6 years, third time when I was 8 years, fourth time. I can actually count the number of times I ever saw my father before I was 30 years of age. That might be really strange, but that is, true story. And so when I grew up, I literally was hopping from home to home, from my grandmother's home to my auntie's home, then to my uncle's home, and then to some kind of relative's home. Even my mom, my own biological mom, I stayed with her just for about 4 years of my life. So my life was spent hopping from one home to the other. So I never really had a kind of a stable home situation. Several schools through elementary, several schools through second, through middle school and all of that. So that was kind of, like my life. But and fast forward a couple of years ago, I decided that I was going to come to the United States. I just finished doing my undergrad and worked for about 10 years, 4 years in healthcare. And then I decided that I was going to be the one who saves the world. And I decided to work for a nonprofit that was helping youth get out of drugs, out of all kinds of youth vices, and then do something good with their lives. So I worked with that organization for about 5 years. I just was volunteering. Nobody was paying me. I was just ready to do something that I thought was a good thing to do and save mankind, if you will. And so at the end of my 5 years of doing that, it came to my heart that I really want to be able to come to the United States, get a graduate education. What a cool idea. I thought about it for 2 years, and finally it came, and got my visa to travel to the United States. I arrived at the United States 13th of January 2007. And I was standing right there at the luggage carousel, watching it turning and turning, and at the Louis Armstrong International Airport in New Orleans, Louisiana. And my heart was pounding inside, and I was shaking literally, because I had left my wife and our 2 children then, and I'd come to the United States, in search of a graduate education, in search of a better life. And all that I had to my name was $600. And on the other side of $600 was thousands and thousands of tuition and fees that I would have to pay. I had no money. I had left my wife back in my home country in Cameroon with $100, and she had 2 children with her. And so I was standing there and just wondering, what did I get myself into? I was just moving from the nonprofit environment where I wasn't paid. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. And I was just wondering, like, what did I really, really, really do? So the day before tomorrow, How to Make Today Count was birthed out of how I began to rethink and put into perspective my own particular situation. How I began to learn how to live every day, or each day at a time. The day before tomorrow, How to Make Today Count is really about accepting that yesterday is really gone, and gone. That yesterday is truly history. That tomorrow is truly a mystery. That there is only one day that you and me have, and that day is today. Somebody rightfully said it, that yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. And that is why we call it the present. And so I learned how to accept the present in a very unique way. I came to the United States 2 years after Katrina, and I was living in New Orleans. So you know what Katrina was like, for those of you who really could relive those days. But I came when the homes were underwater. New Orleans was certainly not back. Probably more than 50% of the population was not yet returned. The homes were nasty, and the streets were filled with a lot of debris from the Hurricane Katrina. In fact, for all of my 2 years in New Orleans, I studied in the trailer campus, because we never returned to our main campus until I graduated. So I came back later on to notice that we could actually go back to school somehow. But that is the kind of situation I was living in. Again, $600 to my name. It was a hard life. So, but Hurricane Katrina gave me some work. So I began to hire myself out to people who were gutting their homes for a fortune of $50 a day. And that is what I was doing, and all kinds of things to be able to pay for graduate tuition. So finally I graduated and moved to Texas, and literally scratching, just barely making it to the next place, financially speaking. And then finally I got my PhD, and I was going to now land my very first job, being an assistant professor, for the very first time, having a full-time job, and probably begin to take a step towards financial stability, if you will. But then that was the very same time that I hit a very dark moment in my relationship with my wife. And it was just a very difficult time, probably the most difficult time of my life when I really think back. Things were just hard. We were really going through lots of marital turmoil, and it didn't last for a week, not for even a month, several months, actually almost a year, one of like the darkest moments in my life. And it was at that moment, sometimes I would just go to the basement of my home and just cry and like, God, what is this? What's going on? And, I remember one time I went there and I just was like, oh, Lord, take this thing away from me. Like, can you help me solve this problem? And then I kind of just heard a voice inside of me saying, what are you going to do about this? And then I said, well, I can't do anything about it. I'm just clueless what to do. I don't know what to do. And said, kept hearing the voice. Now, what are you going to do about this? So it took about weeks. One day I just went down my basement and then I took a book and then a writing pad, and at that time I was approaching 40, and and I was just kind of like saying, what do I want my 40s to look like? I was thinking to myself, what do I want my 40s to really look like? And then a saying came to me, the British say a fool at 40 is a fool forever. And I was like, man, I don't want to be a fool at 40. I don't want to be in trouble and just kind of like not knowing what to do with my life and my, whatever. So I took a notepad and I scribbled 5 things there. And here are the 5 things that I scribbled, which I later on gave it a name. I called it my 5-point legacy statement. This is what I wrote. So I said, and that was kind of like a prayer to God. I said, God, if you let me live for the next 40 years of my life, this is what I want to give myself to. I was approaching 40, so I was like, okay, if you let me live, then, another 40 years in my life, this is what I really want to give myself to. Number 1, I said I wanted to be the best husband that I can be to my dear wife. Number 2, I wanted to be a father that raised his children in the way that they should go. Number 3, I wanted to be a professor that taught more than information systems or analytics or statistics. I wanted to be a professor that taught life to my students. 4th, I wanted to be a citizen of Cameroon that served his beloved country, Cameroon. I love my country and I want to be part of the solution and not the problem. And lastly, I wanted to be a leader that helped men and women around the world, discover, pursue, and achieve their God-given destiny or purpose, whatever it is that they've sensed in their life that it's their purpose for their lives. So when I wrote these 5 statements, unbeknown to me, these 5 things would literally change my life, and very, very radically. Now, when I wrote these 5 statements, I wasn't that husband yet, for sure. I told you my marriage was in shambles. For the first time in my life, I was thinking about the D word. When I wrote that statement, I wasn't that father to my children. I wasn't that professor to my students, not that citizen to my country, not even that leader to the world. And so it started me on a journey to seek coaching and mentorship. So I said, I never grew up under, again, I never had a good examples for husbands. My father ran away again. I told you when my mom was pregnant as a teenager. And so I never had that living in that husband, wife, or father and mother situation. So never knew what that was. Interestingly, I was married to a wife who grew up under a father and a mother and a loving home, and she was altogether a different kind of person. That's when I got married to her. I was wondering to myself, which university does crash courses in the summer about 5 quick ways on how to become a husband overnight and things like that. I don't know. I wish HBAP was there. Maybe and startups were there, and I was asking, how can I start up my marriage? How can I start up this husband, LLC, and or maybe Father PLC or something, and get some partners join me in that. But I didn't find any, so I was left, wandering on my own, and starting to look for mentors and people that could really help me with model what I was trying to look for. Started looking up, for professors that could help me become a better professional and citizen and leader. And so this is the thing that totally, like I said, changed my life. When I started doing this and started to intentionally grow myself, in the space of 6 years, I was able to start two organizations, Lead Missions International and Superior Lead. And as I speak today, I have been able to train through my organization, over 15,000 leaders from 50 countries in the world. We have been able to, mentor, people in Congress, senators, people in the House of Representatives around the world in different countries, prime ministers and things like that, businessmen and all of that. All because of a single decision that I took in the darkest moments of my life. That's when I really learned that, pain is the crucible for great things to happen in our lives. It was even at that moment that I said to myself, well, you know what? When this thing finally works, maybe one day I'm going to write a book. Maybe one day I'm going to write something that and share my story with the world about what I have experienced. And I remember in 2017, I was attending a leadership conference in Orlando, Florida. And, I was going to be listening to one of the people that I respect a lot, Mr. John Maxwell, who is literally a leadership guru. And I waited for the time when he mounted the stage. And of course, he gave a passionate, teaching. And I was left astounded at just the wisdom that was oozing from this gentleman. And then towards the end of his discussion, he stops and he says, there is a book I want you to get. And then I said to myself, wow, if this guy can really advertise a book, this book must be very important. It must be something I should take, seriously. And he said that book is called, The Greatest Story Ever Told. So my mind was racing, like, what could the greatest story ever told be about? Because I read a lot of his books, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, 15 Laws of Growth, and I read a lot of his books, and like, which one? This one is new. I haven't heard about this one. Is this one new? What is it really talking about? So I am sitting in a hall of about 3,000 to 5,000 coaches from hundreds of nations at the World Marriott in Orlando, Florida. And in my wonderful African mind, I am thinking to myself, if these 3,000 people get out these doors and then go to the next room where the books were being sold, and I was sure that book was not going to be available for me. So guess what I started to do? I started to pack up my stuff, before he could finish, so that I could head out the door and make sure I'm on the table before anyone reaches the product table and get that book. So, sure enough, my calculations paid off, right? I headed out the exit doors, got to the international room, I got to the table, and I was pushing every other book looking for The Greatest Story Ever Told. And finally, I actually asked the table attendant, I said, but do you have The Greatest Story Ever Told? And he said, sure. And he got a copy and gave me, and I held the copy in my hand and secured one. And then I thought to myself, like, let me, before I pay, let me just kind of go through the pages, maybe just kind of find out the table of contents, maybe just kind of have a clue of what is in the book, have a feel for the message of the book and all of that. So I flipped the pages, and I don't know, I just kind of met with like blank pages, and I flipped some more, was kind of like blank pages, and I flipped the third time, blank pages. So I thought, well, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe this is a workbook, and then the real book is somewhere else, and then maybe this is just the companion workbook. And so I flipped, and then I remember that John Maxwell had said that he had written a personal note at the beginning of the book. And so I thought, okay, maybe let me go back and see whether there is a personal note that he said he wrote at the beginning of the book, because I wrote it in my personal handwriting, and I actually signed it. And so I went back to the beginning of the book, and I flipped feverishly, and then I came to that page that had his note. And the note read, "Dear friend," and so I was eager to read, and it said, "The greatest story ever told can only be written by you." And then he goes down a couple of lines and he says, I want you to fill these 248 pages, with your own story and let the world know your story. And that, my friends, is what inspired me to start writing this book. It was an attempt for me to fill the 248 pages that Mr. Maxwell talked about and to get my story. Because when I stood there, I asked myself, what kind of story can I share? What is there to share about not enough figure, abandoned by the father, never lived under parents and just was hopping from home to home throughout grade school, came from definitely an obscure village in some way in Africa and all of that. I began to think about what can I talk about? What is there desirable? Or what is there that I could really talk about? And that is when I thought to myself, yeah, I sure have a story. I sure have a story. I came here with $600. How many people can say that they earned a fortune of $50 for getting a home, after Hurricane Katrina, and to get $50 for a day's worth of wages, and be very, very happy and smile while walking back home because I don't have a car to even drive it. Who can say that? And that is what made me to put together the lesson that I put in what I believe is that the biggest lesson that I've learned in my life, which is that today is the only day that we truly have. So it was on that day that I began to say, you know what, I decided I will say yes to myself. I began to say yes to my dreams. I began to believe that my dreams were valid and that I could truly achieve that which I set my mind to do. Eleanor Roosevelt said that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. For the very first time in my life, somehow I began to believe in the beauty of my own dreams and the beauty of my own future. And not only that, and as I began to look, Peter Drucker is called the father of management. Once said this. He said that the best way to predict the future is to create it. So I said to myself on that day, I said, I'm going to create my own future. So instead of trying to wonder what the future holds for me, I would begin to use today to see how I can literally recreate my future. So that day I said yes to my own dreams and yes to my own, what I believe was my calling. And so maybe I should just challenge you and ask you, have you said yes to your own dreams? Have you said yes to all of your possibilities? Have you considered that there is much in you? Have you considered that you have a lot of potential in you? One of my mentors said this to me when I was a freshman in college, and it has lived with me all my life. And he said that the richest spot on the earth, he said, it's not the oil fields of Iraq and Iran. It's not the diamond mines of South Africa. It's not the golden mines around the world. It's not even the biggest banks, Swiss banks in Switzerland. He said the richest spot on the earth is the graveyard. He said because that is where all of the songs that were never written, all of the inventions that were never brought out, all of the startups that never got started up, that is where they are found, buried in somebody's graveyard. And I thought to myself as a young man growing up in Africa, and I said, wow, I don't want to die with my dreams. I don't want to be buried with my dreams and my visions and the kind of things that I want to do. And I said, well, I'm going to rise up and do something today. So those are the kind of thoughts that were running through my mind back in that day when I began to think about it. But you remember I said that in that moment that I was going through my darkest moments, remember what I told you? I said I wanted to be that husband, that I never saw my father be, to my mother. I wanted to be that father that that father figure that I never even experienced in my own very life, And so I began to learn how to say yes to my family. I decided that, I would put my family as a priority. I said, my duties as a husband as a priority, my duty as a father as a priority. Because from all that I knew, like I said again, I remember, really just struggling in my marriage the first year, because again, when something is not modeled to you, it's difficult. One of my mentors said to me, he said, it's difficult to really grow and become significant if all the example that you have is yourself. And so I had, to literally begin to walk myself out of that and learn how to say yes to my family. Michael J. Fox says, family is not an important thing. It is everything. Well, if you doubt that family means a lot, well, have a problem in the family and go to work and see how the work works, right? When home is in trouble, you carry it over to everywhere you go. So I began to learn how to say yes to my family and prioritize my family and prioritize my kids and my children, and try to bring them up in a kind of environment that myself I didn't grow in. And then I learned how to say yes to my craft. I began to say I wanted to be a professor who taught more than analytics or data analytics or informatics or information systems. I wanted to just teach life to students. And that's one of the things that I strive to do wherever I go. Confucius put it this way: it says, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. And I just said, what can I do that will not feel like work? What can I do that I will just have fun with? And then I decided I will pour everything I can into my craft, into my career, and use that as lessons to be able to build and grow leaders around the world. Then it was also when I began to say yes to my community. I decided to really say yes to my community. So today I care a lot about whether it's my academic community, whether it's my leadership community, business community, whether it's my neighborhood community. I care a lot about the community. Helen Keller said, I think she was deaf, dumb, deaf and she could not even see, and deaf and blind and all of that. She said, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. So I learned the power of networking and working with others. I'm glad that I've had the honor and privilege and working with people here like Kelly and all of that, and doing some things, projects together. People like Golden, who is here today, and able to partner with him, go with him to Africa and do some cool things around the place. But I began to really value community, whether it's professional community, business community, and all of that, because I knew that was it. Then I also began to not just say yes to my dreams, actually, but also to say yes to my country. So after several years, I began to go and to build leadership in my country. So in the last few years, we have worked our way from just, talking to the people on the street corners and helping orphans and building, helping in orphanages and all of that, to sitting on the same table with my prime minister, talking about how we can change the situation and the circumstances in my own beloved nation. Well, it was John F. Kennedy who said, ask not what your country can do for you, as what you can do for your country. And I think I really subscribed to that philosophy when it comes to my nation. And I said, what can I do for my country? I remember a couple of years ago, I was taking an audience with my prime minister. And he had given, the audience was supposed to last for about 15 minutes. These big people, you can't spend a lot of time with them. And so when I came to him, I sat down with him, with my team. And then and he said, Madison, I hear you are doing that. I hear you came to the country for this and that. And I said, yes, Your Excellency, and all of that. And we talked. And so at the end of the day, I said, but hey, Your Excellency, this is really the crux of the matter. How can I help you? And he was literally shocked. And he said, Madison, I sit here from morning till night listening to people's problems. How are you going to solve the problem of roads? How are you going to solve this? And then you come along and you ask me how you can help me. That is strange. That's a question I've never heard before. I mean, Nobody cares how I feel. Everybody cares how they feel and how their, the region they come from or whatever problem they have feel. But I have subscribed to this notion that you and me have owe our communities. You and me owe our neighbors. You and me owe our countries and the world around us. We owe them our contribution. We have to be able to live life in such a way that we would leave our footprints on the sands of time. Again, I remember it was John F. Kennedy who was visiting NASA in 1963, I believe, and 62, I believe. And then, and he met the janitor, this famous janitor, to me, he's a famous janitor. And he saw the guy, carrying his broom and his broomstick, and he said, "Hey, guy," he said, "Hey, my name is Kennedy. What is your name?" And the guy told him the name, and he said, "So, what do you do here?" And here was the answer of that janitor, and I thought that was a powerful thing. He said to the president, he says, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon, Mr. President." I said, "Wow, helping to put a man on the moon." I said to myself, what if each one of us here in the startup, here in our individual lives, tap into something bigger than us? And even though we don't have the right astrological equations and all of the physics in the world, and all we have is a broomstick to be able to say that what we are doing is contributing to putting a man on the moon, so as it were. How would it look like if each one of us looked at our individual missions and we looked at ourselves and like, wow, all what we are doing is to really strive to do a noble task of helping serve America, helping serve our organizations, helping serve our communities, helping serve our families, whatever that thing, that ideal, that thing that we are really looking for. What if you and me adopted that mentality and say, all that we are here to do is to be able to help do something bigger than us, something that we ourselves don't even know we can do, but we have just a broom in our hands. How about starting where we are? How about starting with what we have and do something that is bigger than ourselves? To conclude, I just want to reflect on these words that I thought that have been dear to me over the years now. And, I've been talking about how we can say yes to our dreams, say yes to our families, say yes to our communities, say yes to our professions and our business, and say yes to our countries. But one thing I just want to say no to, let us just be able to say no to our fears, right? One no, no to our fears. Marianne Williamson said this. He said, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are we not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are all born to manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, this is it. This is the crux of it. We unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. It is these thoughts and this reflection that made me to write, the day before tomorrow, how to make today count. It was this very concept that if you and me would say yes to our true dreams and truly say yes to our heart, truly we could probably transform the world. I think it was Steve Jobs who said, those who are crazy enough to believe that they can change the world, they are those who eventually do. I think it was Steve Jobs who said that. but I decided that that is what my life is going to, to be about. Then, and that is what now birthed what you see, what I know, the book that I wrote. So it's just a reflection of my own life and just the lessons that I have learned. And so every time if you want to ever buy the book, I want you to use this one, the day before tomorrow.store. Because when you buy it on Amazon, you are only enriched.
No, please, Madison, I have to interrupt you. No, everyone here. Again, this will go on YouTube, so you can promote it on YouTube. But everyone here, please fill out this form. And thanks to Kelly, everyone who's attendance here right now will get a copy of the book.
And so these are some of the lessons that I've learned, and I'm so happy that I could share them with you tonight. And so thank you very much for listening to me. And I am so happy that you could let me do so. Thank you, Todd. And thank you, friends.
Madison, man, I love you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah.
So if anybody has any questions, please raise your Zoom hands. We'll come to you. And Madison, like the 5-point legacy where you started with I'm not crying, you're crying. But thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's got to be someone with a question for Madison. Victor, right out of the gate.
Madison, where should I start? I want to start with gratitude, Madison. Thank you for sharing your story, your heart, your spirit, and your wisdom with us. It's our privilege to be in this with you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor.
There's a part of me that would like to go down the path just a little bit further. If you were to look at today, Cameroon, what are the greatest problems there? And how might we think about participating in solving them?
So I think that the greatest problem there in Cameroon, much like in all over Africa, because it's a continental problem, is the lack of leadership. That's what I've literally given my life to see that I develop leadership with the common person and with the person in the position of authority. So one of the things that I do, and again, that's what I was talking about Golden, and Golden has been with me too. He just came back with me from Africa in July, and and we do a very interesting kind of thing, right? We do leadership development at the lowest levels. We do leadership development at the top levels with the government officials, with all of that. And for some strange reason, I think that I've just had this being blessed that I have a lot of trust for some strange reason. A village boy never grew up with anything around me, but that they would trust me, that when I say something, they can listen. And so one of the things that I'm really doing right now, and I already talked to Golden about it, I am, next year in July, I want to go back to Africa and to Cameroon. And one of the things I want to do is empower the young generation, 15-year-olds. I want to bring together 5,000 young people between 15 years old and 30 and make them, and empower them to believe in their dreams and empower them to dream and bring people like Golden, who is a venture capitalist, and tell them about how they can be creative and create businesses and take their destiny and their matters into their own hands and bring about a change, and not wait for the political system to do what they know how to do best, which is put a wedge between you and me, and we are there hitting our heads, and they are cashing in on all what they are doing. I just want to be able to help young people, especially because I remember as a young man growing up in that same kind of situation. And so I want to be able to do that and empower women, because that's another thing that I really care about. As Lead Missions International, we have something that we call the Leading Lady Conference, where we teach leadership only as, to women, in the specific areas that matter to them, because these are a group that, here's the funny thing. In my country, women occupy more than half of the national population of 28 million women are more than men. So if we ignore the potential that is in women, we are literally sweeping away more than half of the nation's resources. That is stupid if we really let that happen. So one of the things I really want to be able to do is to continue to empower women, take women, bring women, so that women speak to women. They see people that are like role models, people that have made it and all of that, so that they can believe in themselves. In fact, in next month, I'm flying back to Africa. I'll be hosting another leadership conference. And one of the speakers at this conference is Kendra Scott. And maybe some of you here might know Kendra Scott. She's a designer. She started her business with $500. Today, she's a billionaire. And one of the people will be speaking, she'll be speaking via simulcast, because I definitely can't hire her for 100 or 500K to come and speak for an hour in my conference. But I'm bringing her through simulcast so that we can inspire women and inspire these people to believe in something that they can have. So I would say that the problem is leadership. And, so my thing is like doing all I can to, first of all, to change the mentality of people, because if the mentality doesn't change, the mindset doesn't change, if you just give money, then you're just wasting your money. So I don't even think about it. I think more about capacity building. One of the ways that startups can help is we have a group of entrepreneurs there, and they don't have your wisdom. They don't have all of the resources that you have. They didn't go to HBAP. They don't even know if they would even go to their own local college back there, because they don't even have the money to do that. But maybe one of the ways is just to donate your time, and we'll get on a Zoom call like this and be able to, speak to them and encourage them and say, hey, man, that's how the entrepreneurial journey is like everywhere in the world. Maybe try, or, and maybe be an encouragement. No. Maybe rambling, but leadership especially is the biggest thing that I've seen. Victor, thank you.
Thank you so much, Madison. It would be an honor to do that for you and your folks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Victor. Jeremy.
Hold on, I got to find the right button to take all the stuff down. Madison, so great to see you, my friend. It's been a while since our time in Boston. I love listening to you speak tonight. You're a ray of sunshine. I want to talk to you about something from your presentation that is easy to say when you're on this side of the 5 points. But one of the quotes you talked about was fear, and not living through fear. And I thought maybe you could talk about what are some of the tools you implement to get over that type of perspective, so that you don't let that fear consume you.
So, and by the way, fear is something that I wrestle with every day. I don't know how you guys, maybe you guys are more, you guys are more holy, you guys are holier than me, but but I wrestle with fear every day of my life. See, I am organizing a big event in Africa right now, and I'm thinking to myself, this thing might end up being on me, because I might end up my investment. I don't even know how many people will come to that event, but I want them to come. I know that it can transform their lives, but I have bills to pay, hotel bills to pay, and all of that is on my head. This one is not even through my, my organization. I'm doing a personal initiative. So I'm fearful that it will fail. What if only 10 people show up? What if, like all of these ifs and all of that. So I deal with fear I am a very, very familiar, person to fear and all of that. But one of the things that I keep doing to myself again is maybe to take the words of, I don't know, was that Roosevelt? Who said, all that we have to fear is fear itself. All that we have to fear is fear itself. So I've made my life about fearing fear. Like, and when I fear, that's when I want to do it, because as long as I know that what I'm doing is right and there's a right thing to do, I decide to do it while afraid. So I have adopted a mentality to do it while afraid, and because by the way, I learned this, and I think that you must have learned it in your own very life. 90% of the things that we fear never really happen. I learned that out. But the thing is, we still continue to practice fear. You're afraid that you will not succeed. You're afraid that you will not. You're afraid that foreclosure. We are afraid of thousands of things. The economy will collapse. This is the end of the world and all of that. None of them ever really happens. And we are still here and we are still afraid. So I have just learned to be afraid of just fear itself and to release myself. So every day I deal with fear. I'm very akin to fear. I'm a very good neighbor to fear. He lives just beside me. Just in case he is an alien to you, he's very, very close to me.
I'm afraid of the 10% though, Madison. Golden, thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Dr. Madison, I am honored to be in this room today with you. You are a true man of God, and you inspire me beyond words. I just want to say to everyone in this room that Dr. Madison, I call him Dr. Madison instead of Dr. Ngafeeson. He knows I just like Dr. Madison better. But Dr. Madison is the leader of Lead Missions International. I know this was more about his personal story, his personal journey, but what this man and his wife and his family and his team have created is a miracle organization. I was with them just a few months ago on the ground in Cameroon, Africa, doing God's work, transforming lives, as he said, from the ground up. Political figures down to religious figures, down to just parents and families who are looking to, transform their lives. And one thing he didn't mention is that Lead Missions International is a not-for-profit organization, is a 501c3. Kelly Kimball, a good friend to many of us, is one of the biggest donors of the organization. He helps supports it every year, which is how some of these great events even happen. And they have many other great donors, and including myself and Ian Eno, who was here, I think, a few weeks ago. We charge thousands of dollars to speak at organizations, and we donate our time, sometimes weeks of our time, to Lead Missions International, so they can leverage our reputation, our knowledge, our networks to help people on the ground in Cameroon. We charge $0 to Lead Missions International when it comes to giving back, and many of us even fund our own trips to Africa to be able to give back. So I'm just giving you guys a picture of how we can all get involved with Lead Missions International, whether it's on a monetary basis or whether it's on a professional basis, and say, hey, you know what? I have some skill sets that I can lend to the organization to help increase capacity. Whatever it is, please count me in. So I just wanted to paint a picture to everyone, because I'm sure Dr. Madison didn't get an opportunity because it was more about his personal life and not his professional life. So I hope I did it some justice, Dr. Madison, but I love Lead Missions International, as you know.
Thank you very much, my friend Golden. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Golden, thank you. Alan, welcome.
Thank
you for joining
us. My camera up here. As I'm loading that, Doctor, thank you so much for your motivation. I got to hear the whole speech, and again, it was quite wonderful. Your story is impeccable, and I won't keep you too long. I just have a quick question about the process. As a process person, I'm just putting my camera up here. You spoke about how when you were in a dark moment of your life and you made your legacy calendar there of items, and you were able to accomplish those, I want to say, within 9 years. I just want to see if I can get some granularity around the pinnacle of that dark moment. Were there actual measurable steps that were taken to get you from the non-ideal perspective? And I'm trying to not be too vapid in my speaking about it because I wasn't there, but at one point there is the acknowledgement that something can be done, right? You have a purpose point. You have some probably some steps aligned where you have measurable targets. But I guess my question is there specific steps that made a difference to be able to accomplish that outcome, or at least be on target for that?
Okay, thank you for that question. So when I was going through that moment, I wasn't like one of this brilliant mind, right? I was just trying to survive the moment. you know, and even when I wrote down those 5 things, it was not like I didn't even knew that those are the things that were going to really help me. I was just writing it down like, this is like, oh, this is what I want to be. Like, you know, like, it's kind of like a wish, like, oh my God, how I wish I was that wonderful husband. Oh, how I wish I was that father. But I think what turned the dial for me is that I identified somebody who epitomized for me what a husband should be like. And I began to go through coaching and mentorship. And then I began to go through self-development. I said, you know, I have to be a better person. And from that day, I made, and I remember when I started doing that, my wife was kind of like, well, okay, we'll see, you know, we'll see. And then one day, after 1 or 2 years, she said, man, you really mean business with this. Because she saw the change and the transformation that was in me. So when I wrote them down, one of the things that happened is, number one, again, I looked for mentors and people that epitomized for me what that dream person was. And then I began to intentionally develop myself, you know, like, and invest in myself, whatever I can to become that husband, right? Whatever, in fact, to be honest with you, next week, Wednesday, I'm going to be starting a marital class. Not because there's some kind of fire burning in my marriage, but it's just part of my values. Like, I'm just going to develop myself. I'm going to be having a class every Wednesday with my wife for 9 weeks. That's a lot, going there for 2 hours every week. But I just want to do it. Why? Because I'm committed to becoming that husband. I'm committed to becoming that father. So that is the thing that working that into everything I do, working that into my goals for the year. Every year when I set goals, I don't only set goals, I'm going to attend this academic conference. I'm going to also set goals. What marriage conference am I going to attend? What marriage book am I going to attend? Am I going to read? Or, what kind of thing will go? How can I make a difference in my children's lives? We have 3 children with my wife. The first is 19, soon to be 20. The other one was 18 years yesterday, and the last is 13. And we intentionally invest in their lives. I want them to be, better people, and I want them to, to be great citizens and all of that. So I began to work with intentionality. So I would say intentionality is my thing, and all of those things. In fact, put it this way: anything that I do in my life has to be tied to these things. If it doesn't match with these things, I just, I said, no thanks, and I move on with my life. It has to fit into this 5-point framework. The reason why I'm here today is because I believe, in growing leadership. I believe that people can inspire me to be a better leader. I can inspire them to be a better leader. That is why I would get here. Otherwise, no thanks.
Doc, real quickly too, also, was there a point where outcomes didn't actually actualize, and was there a push through?
Oh, sure. This thing is a daily thing. That's why I was mentioning about the fact that, again, next week Wednesday, I'm going to be starting another class and all that, because it's about a lifestyle rather than an event in your life. It happened as an event over 10 years ago, but the actions that I put every day is a lifestyle. So I learned that, success doesn't happen in a day, it happens daily. I learned that success is found in your daily agenda. So if I look at your daily agenda, I can tell whether you're going to be successful or not. Your daily agenda, again, because it's not an event. It's not a destination. Success is not a destination. It's a journey. So I think that the time you and me stop thinking about the things that are important to us, it's at that time that we start losing the same things that are important to us.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I appreciate your advice and your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks for coming. We'll go to Sebastian. Thank you.
Hey, sir. I just want to say thank you. I grew up in Colombia and spent half of my life in the military, and had the opportunity to work with a lot of South American, African, and Middle Eastern And I understand when you talk about leadership, lack of leadership, and when the leadership doesn't want the people to be educated. So I just want to say thank you for taking your time, for you guys going over there and educating all these kids that have a lot of potential. All the engineering is actually shifting to the people that can actually do science, and they just need people like you that dedicate their time, come and talk to these kids to kind of give them some guidance. And I just wanted to say thank you. I think it's a really great mission what you're doing, and I have experience in some of those countries where the government itself doesn't want people to be educated. They just want to keep them to the lowest, and people like you really make a change. So I just want to say thank you. I gotta go back to work, so I just wanted to have the opportunity to just say that. And yeah, thank you for your time and for everything that you have shared with us.
Thank you, Sebastian. Your words mean a lot to me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. I'm going to cold call Maggie. Hi, Maggie.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, Dr. Madison. I'm so glad to
Hey,
meet you.
Maggie.
Finally. Yes. I'm from Cameroon too, and I have
Oh
a
my
little bit of
God, really?
Yes. Yes, so it is an honor to be honest, to just like put a face to someone where I heard a long time already. So I'm so glad. My question will be, okay, the book, I don't know if it's only crafted for a Western audience, but how can I make it more suitable for the audience, especially in Africa? We know that one of the big struggle is not only the leadership, they really change the mindset itself in order to make some change, in order to enable those people to understand that they can also think for themselves. That's one thing I did not know until I have an encounter going through some during my MBA in India. So to have those opportunities, some of us doesn't know because we were, I would say, molded in a way that we don't have to think necessary. So to just like how do we say, change it is super hard, even amongst academics or amongst educated people like us. So what is like a tangible solution? Because I know many people did that before in our country, but what is different about the books or about what you're doing that's going to make a tangible change?
So thank you very much. By the way, Maggie, I'm glad to meet you and meet somebody from my beloved country, Cameroon. Yes, the book is written for it's not for a US audience. It's written, in fact, because I would hardly write a book like that if it would not apply to Cameroon. I would not, like that's because it's part of my mission, and by the way, just so you know, this book has been done excellent translation into French. So it's available in French and English because I need to reach out to my country. So that's my philosophy. Now, in the 3 weeks ago, for two weeks in a row, I did a mastermind on this book with about 50 or 40 something people in Cameroon via Zoom. So for 2 weeks, for 2 hours, each one of those weeks, going through the book. Because when we did the program, this last program in July that we did with Golden, one of the things we did is that because we were able to raise some kind of funds, we actually gave a copy of my book to everybody that attended our program, our leadership summit, so that, and if there is a lady, a French lady who wrote to me 2 days ago, she wrote to me on WhatsApp about, I've not even finished reading her story, but she was abused by the father when she was young. Because, the book talks about how you deal with your past, come into today so that you can take a shot at tomorrow. Some people are living in their past because of the traumatized, they are bleeding because that past is real for them. And so this lady said, thank you for your book, because now I know that I have to put an end to my past so I can come into today and take a good shot at tomorrow. So I have done right now, this year, I've done 2 masterminds just in 2023 on this book. So I'm not only, and by the way, they are even doing the book in book clubs in Cameroon. So I'm connected to some book clubs in Cameroon, and they invite me, and I just come and kind of throw more light on the book, why I wrote the book, and how they can use the book, and how they can use that to change their story. Because one of the things that the book really encourages is, well, yesterday is past, finito, is gone. You see, we can't stay here and hold ourselves hostage by our past. We could have made some errors. Other people could have made errors and mistakes and been horrible, but the past is past. Today is a new day. In fact, in the book, I talk about a principle I call the art of a new start. The art of a new start. And I talk about Vince Lombardi, when the Green Bay Packers had gone to the finals for their first time, and then they were leading, and then they lost sorely, and then they had to go back after the season, and then Vince Lombardi began to teach them how to tie their boots and to tie their shoes, and then he took the football in his hand and he says, "Gentlemen, this is a football." And the Green Bay Packers will go from the basics to win the NFL that same year and several years after. Till today, Vince Lombardi is a literal god in the city of Green Bay. If you go there, he has a stadium named after him. Everything in the town is about him. Why? Because he taught a principle, how to what I call the art of a new start. When things don't go wrong, well, if you don't like the way things things ended, you can decide and start again. That's why this group is called Startup. You can start again, and start it up if you want to. But anyway, but so that is what I'm doing. We're really doing practical things, really practical things to make this happen.
Thank you. By the way, Rosa suggested that you translate the book to Spanish, so she just volunteered to help with that. I'm volunteering her. No, I'm kidding. Donna, and then we'll go to Mafe. Rosa did not volunteer. I'm joking. I'm joking. Donna,
I would not mind volunteering or him volunteering. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Madison, I obviously I couldn't miss this talk. You did a great job. I was in the car for most of it, but so I've got some lawyers for my firm now. I've got one from Ghana, one from Nigeria, and they really want to make a difference too. And I told you about that amazing artist that I met from the Cameroons. That's here in little old Red Deer, Alberta, and he's very talented. And then I have a new friend that's from Somali, and she's like a you, all right? So she's making a difference in her country, building schools, all that kind of thing. So I kind of wondered, like, how do all the African countries kind of fit in? Like I said, my geography's poor, and I kind of sort of think it there. But is there countries like say I'm in Alberta, and we're kind of like, for Canada, we're kind of like right wing or whatever, but we still all get along. How do the countries kind of support each other and that kind of thing?
Okay, I think it's a challenge in Africa, right, for the countries to come together. And that's one of the things that as a person, I wish we did more coming together. But our colonial masters, the Europeans, were very intentional with what they were doing. They literally drove a wedge through the Africans so that they can divide and then they can rule. And that's why, even though colonialism is a thing of the past, but neo-colonialism is a thing of the present. What do I mean by that? You see, you would have a country that was colonized by the French or the English or the whatever. Until today, there are contracts and there are covenants that they had with those people that make them still kind of control affairs, even remotely. And that's one of the sad things. I wish Africa was more one. I wish Africa was like, you know how we have the European Union. We had an African Union that really works that way, because again, it's a continent. the so-called countries, Africa has 55 countries. The so-called countries were imposed on us by the colonial masters. It was just one Africa. It was them when they came and took their territory, and when they were leaving, they called that territory this and called the other territory that. We didn't have countries, you know, but they did it intentionally. Why? Because as long as the people are divided, there is no common purpose, and definitely they are more easy to conquer, right? And that is one of the things I wished we could be even more together. But Africa is a huge continent. Africa is only second to Asia, I guess. Yes, you know, it's very huge.
So is your territory for now kind of then Cameron's?
No, I didn't understand your question.
For where you're going to do your leadership, you know, when you're in Africa, is it right now? It's kind of all focused in the Cameroons.
So I have been to Cameroon, I've been to Burundi, we've been to Rwanda, we've been to Egypt, and then we have done some other trainings here in the US, but with people that came from Nigeria and things like that. Yeah. So our focus is Africa, but you know, but we have to begin somewhere. You know, we start and then kind of grow.
Okay, we'll have to join together. I've got to get to one of these events soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna, Mafe, and then we'll go to Zandra. And looking at the time, I guess we'll wrap after that. Mafe.
Thank you, Madison. I must say, I probably have to set up an appointment to speak with you. The reason why I am in the East Coast extending my trip is because I met a group of an organization, an international organization, and I had promised to help advance their cause. And they are in Asia, and they're also in Africa, specifically in Cameroon. And my first meeting with them is in New Paltz this Friday. And then they are inviting me to go to Erie, Pennsylvania, to show me what they are doing, so I could figure out how to help them. And so I'm just amazed of all. I haven't been home since I graduated from HBAP. And it keeps on showing up new doors and new doors for me here in the East Coast. So I'll set up an appointment to speak with you in regards to what we could do over in Cameroon.
No,
Okay.
wonderful, Mafe. I'll be more than happy to do that. I am an ambassador for my country and for Africa.
Yeah, and we could see what we could duplicate in Asia. So
yes,
good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mafe. Zandra, Amanian is going to get his hand in at the last minute. So Zandra, then we'll go to Amanian.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Excellent.
Yep.
So I recently saw an Instagram article of a gentleman speaking in Africa, and he mentioned something, Madison, about a United States of Africa. I wanted to get your opinion on that. I have visited the continent, a few countries in the continent, and I just believe, as you mentioned, the colonialism of the whole continent has become quite a hindrance on us being able to help and nurture and educate natives of the continent and around the world. What are your thoughts on a United States of Africa?
So I think that I am a Pan-Africanist in that sense, in the sense that I am very much in support for a united Africa, because we are one people, you know. We are really one people, you know. It's not the current configuration is not our thing. It's somebody else's invention, you know. And they didn't have good thoughts when they were doing that, and they were not doing that so that we will be better organized. No, that was not their thought. So I am in support of that, and I think that Africans should do that. Not because they can become one country. They can never be one country. Africa is so diverse. Just in my country, just to Zandra, so you kind of get a picture. In my country, we speak 261 languages among 28 million people. And that's my country. And I'm just one country out of, the close to 2 billion Africans that we are. So you see, it's very diverse, so I don't think that every country can become one country, but I believe that there can be a union where, they come together for economic, just like the European Union. Germany is different from France, but they are bonded together, and they have an economic union. They are seeking what is good for them. They can go across borders without visas. But in Africa, you still need a visa to go to certain countries. But we don't need that. Like, this is your brother. Like, why do you need a visa to go next door? That kind of thing, and make the economy stronger, come together, and then they can negotiate better. Like when you are together, you can negotiate better. When you say, okay, all right, well, this is how much we're going to sell our gold. This is how much we're going to sell our diamond, because our children have to. This is it. But if you are doing that, and then another person is not doing that, and another person is doing the other thing, it's difficult to be profitable that way. So I would say that I'm for a united Africa, but maybe not in the sense of a country. It cannot really be that. It's just not possible. But as working together for the good of the entire continent, I would say so. What was the other second thing that you said apart from the united?
No, my question was really based on how that can possibly, what does that look like? And as you mentioned, it couldn't be just one big continent being one big country, but your focus in this talk was to go to Cameroon, and I know some of your neighbors like Nigeria and Gabon and stuff. So I'm just wondering, like, how can we bring light to your neighbors from Cameroon and kind of shed some light all over, kind of thing?
Oh, okay. So you see, I think one of the things I mentioned here is that I'm a community guy, right? So just this morning, I talked with somebody from Holland. I talked with somebody from the United Kingdom, and then that person connected me to somebody from France and all of that. And we are planning a program where all of us are going to converge on certain countries in Africa and do certain projects together. So I'm a child of Africa. So yeah, I don't see those as boundaries. So I always look at myself that way. Every time I organize a program in Cameroon, there are people that are coming from neighboring countries, just to come and see what we are doing and see, and support it. And then also look at maybe is there anything that they can implement wherever they are, something like that. So it's just a way of working together and networking together and seeing how we can work together for sure. But I care not only about my country, I care about the continent, but you cannot start everywhere. You can only start somewhere. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. Manian, and we got another one. How are we doing on time, Madison? You can stick around? You're good?
I can stick around. Oh,
okay.
These are my friends, so
good. All right. So we'll go to Manian and then Farzan.
And yeah, in between those two, I have to run to a business dinner. So Manian, maybe after Manian, let me just say a couple of words, and then
Susan, do it now. Go for it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So this was just incredible, Madison. And there's been a bunch of us DMing each other about how we can help make that trip to Africa next year happen. So let's do it. Let's figure out how to make that happen. Maybe it's our first Pan-African HBAP meetup. But yeah. And just thank you so much. It was just moving and incredible, and your story is wonderful, and really, really appreciate you coming here and speaking to us. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And I will see you all next week, maybe before. See ya. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Manian, sorry for the interruption. You've got the floor.
Dr. Madison, it's an honor and privilege to be with you today and the group. Brings back some memories of my childhood as well. So I have a couple of quick questions. As you go through this is there any time that you had to deviate from some of it for a short time, and then you come back to fill it in any of these?
Yes, of course. You know, like again, it's you know, everything worthwhile is uphill. So there are going to be times where you're going to hit there, and then you kind of retreat a little bit, and then you say, "Oh my God, what am I doing? You know, I can't go back to where I came from." And you get back up again. Yeah, it's always a struggle. There's no neutral spot. You know, so every time you find yourself standing, you are likely going to go backwards. You know, and nobody falls upwards. You know, they only fall downwards. So every time you hit an obstacle, you are likely going to retreat. So yes, there are times that I have had my fair share of challenges, but then again, when you have such an overarching vision for your life, when your life is, you have made a promise to yourself and to God, I would say, you keep getting back up again and getting back on the path.
Yeah, the second question is, I may have to consult with you. I just starting a new NGO organization in Makurdi, Benue River side of Africa, Nigeria, I would say. There is a 2-year program funded that I'm working with Agriculture University and trying to put together for farmers and hydroponics, along with the students interested, so they can practice after the college. And the vision is to educate the interested students in agriculture using agri-tech and practice them in that farm and educate the farmers along with it. So it's a 2-year program we are putting together with a few of the community in Makurdi area. And I'd like to touch base or consult with you on the design of the program, and if there is anything that you can guide me through on certain components, how to navigate through. Once the NGO is formed, then I'd like to get your consulting time on that effort.
Okay, no problem. I'll be more than happy to contribute in any way I can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Manian.
Thanks, Manian. Farzan, and then after Farzan, we will wrap it up.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Madison. Let's basically match, what Golden is basically called. I'm very much curious to say, because your position is more like at the community level, but I was wondering if technology, to which extent, is leverageable. Is it something, that people from any community, can reach and can access and can interact? I was more like thinking that toward your goals, technology can be a powerful tool.
You are very correct. Technology can be a very powerful tool. One of the things that I was telling you about the project, for instance, that I'm thinking about for the young people next year, and so the young people, here is the beautiful thing about Africa and my country, Cameroon, is that the young people are very educated. They just don't have the opportunities. So they can actually be engineers, they can be all of your whatever you want. Cameroon is one of the most literate countries in Africa. Our literacy rates are higher than most of Africa. They're higher than those of Egypt. They're higher than those of South Africa. They're higher than many, many other countries in Africa, way up there. And so for instance, so they will try to venture into startups and all of that. But for instance, they don't have the internet backbone is not there to make certain things happen. Even when we were there, Golden, I know there are several times Golden was like, I don't have internet. I said, well, welcome to Africa, right? But so these are some of the things that, so technology is a big deal that is holding things behind, but also technology is that thing that will also bring a lot of development too, because technology is a key in the 21st century. There's no way we can ever we can never live our lives again without it. Technology as a tool for development. So one of the things that I am, praying that we are able to do is really to encourage, especially these young people that are going into technology and becoming techno entrepreneurs, in those areas, and seeing just how we can really encourage them. I was talking to a friend yesterday who was telling me about another company, an organization that does kind of like micro loans to startups or entrepreneurs and all of that. And we're kind of like talking to is it possible? Do they work in Africa? How can we also make sure that we do due diligence so that the people are trained such that if they take the loan, they don't just take it and then squander it and say, well, it could not work, but do due diligence and make those businesses work and all of that. So, but technology is a big thing that can make a difference. And so I think that, so while I am using leadership mind change as the main thing that I'm pushing ahead, because again, with technology, without a change of mentality, we still get back to the same thing. So, but I want to push that. While we are pushing that ahead, we cannot underestimate the power of tools such as technology to really make a difference. Yes. For instance, there is this guy I met, one interesting fellow, again through all of this networking, and this guy is working in one of the remotest villages of my country. And he told me this. He said they are using internet. They're getting internet from oh my God, who is this guy now? I mean, the satellite one from
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Very good.
Elon Musk.
Exactly. Elon Musk. So can you believe that? So that's very, it was mind-blowing to me to think that, because I'm asking him, how do you go into those, people in Cameroon don't even go to where you went to. Like, how did you go there and what are you trying to do there? So where did you get your engine? How did you go get connected? He went directly to the satellite. Of course, it costs money to go to the satellite directly. So, but then he had some kind of support and things like that. So yes, technology is very, very important.
Thank you. All the best.
Oh, thank you.
Farson, thank you. Looking at the time, I guess we'll end it here. Madison, thank you. I don't know if I have the words to express how much I appreciate you coming and talking about this. I genuinely needed to hear everything you were talking about tonight. So I'm just going to say thank you. I'm going to stutter over my words here. But again, so just a little announcement, just as a little reminder. Next week, we have, well, yeah, we'll figure that one out. But September 27th, Maurice Williams will be coming, our very own, she's an HBAPer. Maurice Williams will be coming to talk about her lessons learned in crowdfunding. October 4th, Jana Hefford, she competed in 5 Olympic Games. She's a 4-time Canadian Olympic gold medalist and Hockey Hall of Famer. She'll be here on October 4th. October 11th, Neville Boston, the founder and CSO of Reviver, the creator of the world's first digital license plate, will be coming to join us. October 18th, Harvard Business School professor Josh Krieger will be coming to talk to us about his entrepreneurial strategy framework to get feedback about use cases and additional building of tools for his research. October 25th, Susan Schultz will be talking about her status of TeamStack. November 1st, we have a VIP special guest. So put that in your calendars. I'm not going to tell you who, but you're not going to want to miss November 1st. And November 18th, Paul Hayer from Harvard's Grid will be coming to talk about how to go from a science project to a fully functioning business. On that note, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to stop the recording. Have a good night.